Today's topic is experimental methods of inquiry. Why the experimental methods of inquiry? It is to determine the cause or causal relationship between two phenomena. It is one of the most important chapter of inductive procedure, and you know that in induction there are two grounds of reaching at the conclusion. One is formal ground, another is material ground. Within the formal ground, we have two laws. One is law of nature, another is law of causation. So, causation happens to be most important factor in the procedure of induction. In order to arrive at the causal relationship, J.S. Mill has given 5 methods which are known as Mill's 5 methods of experimental inquiry. Much prior to Mill, Bacon, who was the father of modern induction, has also thought about 3 such methods, but most systematically it has been presented by J.S. Mill. And you know that you have just now heard that experimental methods are the process of determining the cause of a phenomenon, given phenomenon, in a scientific manner, and this is done by the help of one particular method, that is elimination of unnecessary factors, which cannot be the cause, has to be eliminated. Then alone we can reach at a causal relationship. Thus, John Stuart Mill has introduced the 5 methods for the determination of causal relationship, and those 5 methods are the method of agreement, the method of difference, the joint method of agreement and difference, and the method of concomitant variation, the method of residues. Now, we have just heard that we have to adopt the principle of elimination in order to arrive at a cause, and the principle of elimination is that it is the technique by the help of which we can eliminate the unnecessary antecedents in a complex situation, and this elimination procedure helps us to find out the suitable cause of a phenomenon. Mill had suggested 3 such principles. Those are known as the principles of elimination, and later on another logician, Joseph, has added another one more principle of elimination, and in this manner we have totally 4 principles of elimination, and those 4 principles of eliminations are like this. The first principle of elimination is this: whatever antecedent can be left out without prejudice to the effect can be no part of the cause. Once again I am repeating it, because it is very important. Whatever antecedent can be left out without prejudicing the effect can be no part of the cause. If we give up one antecedent or take away one antecedent and the effect still occurs, then that cannot be the cause. The second principle of elimination is like this: when an antecedent cannot be left out without the consequence disappearing, such antecedent must be the cause or part of the cause. Once again, when an antecedent cannot be left out without consequence disappearing, that means if we take away the antecedent, then the consequence also disappears, and in that case it helps us to recharge the causal relationship, and that is how the principle is like this. Once again, when an antecedent cannot be left out without consequence disappearing, such antecedent must be the cause or part of the cause. Now, the third principle of elimination: an antecedent and consequence rising and falling together in numerical concomitance are to be held as cause and effect. Here I want to clarify two terms, that is antecedent and consequence. Whatever happens prior, that is known as antecedent. Whatever is followed to it, whatever follows to it, that is known as consequence. So, in this manner cause and effect are treated as antecedent and consequence. So, all these three principles are concerning the relationship between antecedent and consequence. And the fourth one added by Joseph is like this, that nothing can be the cause of a phenomenon which is known as the cause of another given phenomenon. If you know that x is cause of y, then x cannot be cause of any other thing. So, the fourth principle is like this, that nothing can be cause of a phenomenon which is known as the cause of the another phenomenon or a given phenomenon. Now, these principles of eliminations are linked with the methods. Following the first principle of elimination, the method of agreement has been decided. Following to the second principle of elimination, the method of difference has been decided, and following both first and second, the joint method of agreement and difference has been decided. Following the third principle of elimination, the method of concomitant variation has been decided. That means, these methods follow these principles of elimination. Method of agreement follows first principle of elimination, method of difference follows second principle of elimination, joint method of agreement and difference follows first and second principles of elimination, both or any one of them, and the method of concomitant variation follows the third principle of elimination, and the fifth method, that is the method of residues, follows the fourth principle of elimination, which has been added by Joseph. Now, let us move to the method of agreement. Prior to the discussion on the method of agreement, I will like to discuss something about the causal relationship in our day to day life, which will help us in understanding the methods. Normally, what we apply in our day to day life to decide the cause. Suppose somebody is frequently suffering from malarial fever, and every time we find that he was not using mosquito net before the fever. So, the doctor suggests that the fever is due to the biting of mosquito. So, when this occurs repeatedly, we find the causal relationship between the two, that is biting of mosquito with the malarial fever. So, this is the normal way we decide the cause in our day to day life. Let us take another example. Suppose we are taking a cup of tea, we find that it is not tasty, then we add little bit of sugar to it, we find that it becomes tastier. Then we say that the addition of sugar becomes the cause of becoming more tasty. We enter to a room, the things are not visible, we switch on the light, we see the things clearly, then we decide that the presence of light is the cause of the visibility of the things. So, these are the ways we decide the causes of different effects or phenomena in our day to day life. Basing on these type of cases, these methods are also formulated. The method of agreement is like that. When many cases are agreeing on a particular case, particular event, we find that it leads to the determination of causal relationship between the two phenomena. Let us see how it has been presented by Mill. There is a canon, every method has a canon, law, principle, and the canon of the method of agreement is listen carefully, if two or more instances of the phenomenon investigation have only one circumstance in common, the circumstance in which alone all the instances agree is the cause or effect of the given phenomenon. Once again I am reading because it is a long one. If two or more instances of the phenomenon under investigation have only one circumstance in common, that means there must be at least one circumstance in common under the investigation of a number of cases. That circumstance in which alone all instances agree the cause or effect of the given phenomenon. That means, the first primary condition of this method that there must be more than two instances, so that we can find the agreement among the number of instances. The more number of instances are required for more accurate result, and this method follows, as I have already mentioned, the first principle of elimination, that is whatever antecedent can be left out without prejudice to the effect can be no part of the cause. That means, if we take away some factor, the effect continues to exist, then that factor cannot be the cause. Let me give you one example. Suppose in one classroom there is some disturbance, we say someone to get out and that fellow, that student goes away, then also this disturbance is there, then we cannot say that that student was the cause of the disturbance. So, this method follows this principle of elimination. This principle is that whatever antecedent can be left out without prejudice to the effect can be no part of the cause. That means, taking away some factor, if the effect continue to exist, then that factor cannot be the cause. That is, in a very precise manner we can say this, then absent circumstance cannot be the cause. Whatever is absent, that cannot be the cause. This method can be presented in a very symbolic form. Symbolic example can be given in this manner. Two ways we can give the symbolic example. First type of case will be like this. Suppose A, B, C, M, that means these are all one factors. A represents one factor. Suppose we say one person having some height, some living in some location, etc. like this. A, B, C, M are followed by A, B, C, M, that means capital A, B, C, M for factors and antecedent factors, and small letter A, B, C, M for consequent factors. Then in another case A, D, E, N followed by A, D, E, N. In another case A, F, G, O followed by A, F, G, O, small a, f, G, O. So, in this manner we find there is a common agreement in the antecedent side, that is A, and in the consequent side, that is small a. Then now on the basis of this agreement we can bring a causal relationship or think of a causal relationship between the capital A and small a. So, this is one symbolic example of this method of agreement. We can also take it in another way, that like this, that suppose A, B, C, M followed by 4 other factors like x, y, z, p, then A, D, E, N followed by another 4 factors x, y, m, s, then A, F, G, O followed by x, z, v, k. Then in one side we find there is a common agreement A is present, and in another side we find that the common agreement, that is x is present. Now, we can relate causally A with x. So, in this manner we can represent this method of agreement by the help of symbolic examples. Now, let us try to understand this method by taking the help of some concrete examples. Now, suppose in one village 10 farmers are using one particular fertilizer. So, farmers are different, their living style is different, their crop field is different, but one thing common is that they are using one particular fertilizer in their field. And in the consequent side, we find that all of them, all the 10 farmers have got good crops. So, on the basis of this agreement that the common fertilizer and the common factor that good crops, then we can relate that this particular fertilizer is the cause of good crops. Now, another concrete example. Suppose in one college institution, the logic students are reading Bureau's logic book. Now, we find that the students of that college are keeping very good marks in logic. Now, there is a agreement that they all are reading or following one particular book, that is Bureau's book, and we also find the agreement that the result is good, they are securing good marks. Now, we can have a causal relationship between the reading of Bureau's book and also securing good marks. So, in this manner, on the basis of agreement, we can arrive at causal relationship. According to Mill, the causal connection between the fall of night temperature and withering away flowers is discovered and proved by this method. Mill has pointed out that withering away flowers at the time of fall of temperature in the night has been proved and also discovered by this method of agreement. Now, what are the characteristics of this method? It is important to know the characteristics of this method. The first and important characteristics which has been pointed out by two important logicians, one is Mellon, another is Coffey. Mellon and Coffey both have pointed out that this is a method of single agreement. We have taken the symbolic example. We have seen that only A is agreeing with another factor, that is small a. But if there will be more cases of agreement, we cannot decide the causal relationship. So, Mellon and Coffey have pointed out that it is a method of single agreement. Here there is the agreement only in respect of one circumstance. If there is more than one agreement, then this method becomes ineffective. So, Mellon and Coffey call this method as the method of single agreement. The second important characteristics of this method is that it is the method of observation. It is the method of observation. We observe what is the factor of agreement. So, we have, you know that in induction there are two important ways to follow, one is observation, another is experiment. This method is not utilizing the procedure or method of experiment. This method only utilizes the method of observation, and that is why it is known as the method of observation. We have observed that there is the biting of mosquito, which is followed by the malarial fever on many occasions. Then we try to find out the causal relationship between the biting of mosquito and the malarial fever. So, it is a method of observation. And the third point, that is the characteristics of this method, that it is a method of discovery rather than the method of proof. We know that by this we can discover a causal relationship. We are not proving a causal relationship. There is difference between proving a causal relationship and discovering a causal relationship, and this method of agreement is helpful for discovering, and that is why it is said that it is a method of discovery rather than the method of proof. What are the advantages of this method of agreement? There are three such advantages of this method. One is it has wide range of application as the method of observation. Since observation is open, we can observe anything everywhere. So, this method has wide range of application. We can apply this method as many times as possible, and we have to depend upon the nature of course, but nature is available always. So, we can make utilize of the method of observation at any time we like. So, it has wide range of application. The second one is that it is the most important advantage of this method, that we can proceed from cause to effect and also from effect to cause. In some of the other methods we cannot proceed from effect to cause, but this is the advantage of this method, that from cause side we can proceed to effect side, and from effect side we can proceed to cause side. And the third advantage, which is not a very important advantage, but it is also the advantage of this method, that it is most easy and popular method of among the methods of experiment. Now, coming to the disadvantages of this method. Method of agreement though has wide range of application, but it has also some disadvantages, and out of those disadvantages, two important disadvantages are there. The first one is known as characteristic imperfection. What is this characteristic imperfection? That means, from the point of view of characteristics, the method has some defect, and that defect is this method is not helpful in case of plurality of causes. What is this plurality of causes? We have to understand. Plurality of causes is that one effect might have got many causes, not a single cause, but many causes. That is called plurality of causes, many causes. For example, the death. Death can be possible by the help of suicide, by drowning in the water, by accident, by old age, by some disease. So, in this manner death can be possible. Here if effect is taken as death, then there can be many causes, and this is the instance of plurality of causes. That not only this, there can be many more examples of like this, that suppose some place is lighted. The light may be possible by the help of sunlight, by the help of electric light, by the help of candle light. So, in this manner light can be possible through many sources. So, here the cause of light can be many, which is considered as plurality of causes. So, this method of agreement, since it is a method of single agreement, there must be only one agreement. If the causes are many, there cannot be single agreement. So, this method fails in case of plurality of causes, and this defect is known as characteristic imperfection. Now, I will give you a very simple example to understand this case of plurality of causes, that that suppose we have 10 cases of patients who are suffering from fever, and all the 10 patients are given different tablets. They have been cured, but the common factor with them is that they have taken water along with the medicines. So, here by applying this method, common agreement, someone may say that the water is the cause of curing of the disease fever. So, this method is has some defect, and this comes under the characteristic imperfection. But this method is not, this defect is not a permanent defect. This defect can be rectified, and the method of rectifying this defect is to multiplying the instances. If you multiply the instances, then definitely this method can be this defect can be removed. Now, another disadvantage, that is practical imperfection. that was characteristics imperfection, and this is practical imperfection. This practical imperfection is that this method may commit the fallacy of non-observation. You might have read earlier the chapter observation, and observation has some fallacies, and all those fallacies of non-observation, that means where you are incapable to observe the instance, then it will be the fallacious. So, the fallacies of non-observation is applicable here for the for this method, and when such type of non-observation cases are seen, that comes under the imperfection and known as practical imperfection. And I will explain this by the help of a very nice example. So far, the scientists have not been successful to find out the common agreement among all cancer patients. That means, the exact disease, the exact cause of the disease has not been detected so far, and due to failure of non-observation of the common factor of agreement in all cases of cancer patients. So, this is one of the important defects of this method, that is the practical imperfection. Then coming to other defects of this method fails to distinguish the cause from coexistence. What is coexistence? Coexistence means simultaneously existence. If something exists together, that means when one is present, the other is also present, like the lightning and the thunder. Wherever there is lightning, there is thunder. So, we may confuse between the cases of coexistence with the case of causation. So, this method is liable to fail to distinguish between cause and coexistence. The cases of coexistence may be confused as the cases of causes because of the common agreement that wherever that is present, the other one is also present. So, lightning and thunder are found to coexist. Somebody may say that lightning is the cause of thunder or thunder is the cause of the lightning. Similarly, we find that day follows the night, night follows the day, and they coexist, and someone may say that day is the cause of night and night is the cause of the day. So, all these are wrong cases of application of this method, and these are known as the cases of the failure to distinguish between the cases of causation from the cases of coexistence. Now, another important defect of this method is that sometimes we fail to distinguish between the cause and another condition. You might be reading, you might be knowing, not reading, you might be knowing from the chapter causation that cause is sum totality of the conditions positive and negative taken together. So, there may be several conditions for the production of the effect, and all those conditions are taken together is the cause. Now, you all know that in all cases of getting cod, we use sour. So, sour is the common factor when we try to get cod, but sour is not the cause of cod, sour is a condition for getting cod. So, this method of agreement may confuse between one of the conditions because of it is agreement with as the cause of the effect. Now, coming to another defect of this method is not applicable in case of intermixture of effects. So, let us try to know what is intermixture of effects. When many effects are combined together, we are unable to distinguish which one is the effect of which one. For example, in case of music, we find so many instruments are playing at a time, are played at a time. So, we cannot say that this particular sound belongs to this particular, we get a composite effect, and that composite effect is known as the intermixture of effects. And this method is based on the single factor of single agreement, and since single agreement leads to single cause, we cannot apply this method in case of intermixture of effects, where so many effects are put together. And last one, that is the last one, that the result of this method is always probable. So, to summarize what we have discussed so far, J. S. Mill has given 5 experimental methods, and the first method is known as method of agreement, and that method of agreement follows first principle of elimination, and on the basis of common agreement we sometimes reach at the causal relationship, and that is the method followed by the method of agreement, which has some advantages and which has some disadvantages. And the most important factor about it is that, like induction, the result of method of agreement, the causal relationship determined by the method of agreement is always probable by nature, not certain. We have just finished the first method of experimental inquiry, that is the method of agreement. Now, we shall proceed to the second method, that is the method of difference. For deciding the causal relationship, this method of difference is very important, and it is used by the scientists very occasionally. Now, coming to the canon of this method, Mill's canon is, if an instance in which the phenomenon under investigation occurs and an instance in which it does not occur have every circumstance in common save one, that one occurring only in the former, the circumstance in which alone the two instances differ is the effect or cause or an indispensable part of the cause of the phenomenon. Let me explain it, then again I will read this canon. We have to take two instances only. The difference between the two instances will be like this, that in one instances all the circumstances will be there excepting one, which one will be present in the second one. So, all these circumstances will be same, there will be single difference between two instances, then only we can apply this method. Once again I am reading that law or principle or canon. If an instance in which phenomenon under investigation occurs and an instance in which it does not occur have every circumstance in common save one, saving one, all are common, then that one occurring only in former, the circumstance in which alone two instances differ is the effect or cause or an indispensable part of the cause of the phenomenon. Then alone we can decide they are causally related, and either cause or effect or indispensable part of the cause. Now, this method follows the second principle of elimination, and that second principle of elimination is this. I have already said, still then, when an antecedent cannot be left out, the consequent disappearing, such antecedent must be the cause or part of the cause. That means, when antecedent can be left out, the consequent also disappears. That is how it has been said in the roundabout way. When an antecedent cannot be left out without consequence disappearing, must be the cause or part of the cause. This law is also otherwise stated as a circumstance in whose presence the phenomenon does not occur cannot be the cause. So, this method of difference follows the second principle of elimination, by the help of which the causal relationship is determined. The unnecessary factors are eliminated in this manner. Now, coming to symbolic example. Now, A, B, C, X are followed by small, that was capital, and this is small A, B, C, X. Now, B, C, X are followed by B, C, X. So, A is cause of A. That means, here we found that BCX common, BCY BCX and BCX accompanied with A. So, we reject the other uncommon factors and we decide the causal relationship between A and A. In the reverse manner, we can also put the symbolic example in this manner, that BCX are followed by BCX, by adding A, ABCX are followed by ABCX. So, A is cause of A. This is how we can put the symbolic example. The example which I have discussed at the beginning can be the example of this concrete example of this method of difference, that in the presence of light the things are visible, in the absence of the light the things are not visible. So, the presence of light is the cause of the visibility of the things. Similarly, if we add sugar, the coffee becomes tasty. If we do not add sugar, the coffee does not become tasty. So, the addition of sugar in proportionate amount is the cause of the taste, good taste of the coffee. So, this is also the example of concrete example of method of difference. Now, another example I can cite, taking the help of this classroom into account, that say the teacher is present in the class is disciplined and peaceful. When the teacher is absent, the class is not disciplined and there is chaos. So, we can say that the chaos is due to the absence of the teacher. So, in this manner we can have so many concrete examples for this method of difference. Now, coming to the characteristics of this method. One of the important characteristics of this method is it is also a method of single difference. Just like the method of agreement was the method of single agreement declared by Mellon and Coffey, same logicians Mellon and Coffey have said that this is the method of single difference. Since there are only two and two instances are required, only two instances are required, the singleness of the difference forms the basis of ascertaining the causal relationship between two phenomena. So, Mellon and Coffey call this method to be method of, or consider this method to be the method of single difference. Now, this method is treated as the method of excellence by Mill. Mill considers this method of difference to be the method of excellence, that means best possible method. Now, the third characteristic is that it is a method of experiment. I have said that method of agreement was the method of observation. We are observing and discovering the causal relationship. Here it is a method of experiment. We make experiment, we add sugar, it becomes tasty. We switch on the light, the things are visible. So, in this manner it is a method of experiment. So, that is how this is a method of experiment, and for that reason it is a method of proof, not a method of discovery. That was method of discovery and it is a method of proof. So, in order to find out the single difference, the cause and between the cause and effect, we have to take the help of the experiment. Since experiment is done under the controlled condition, it becomes easier to ascertain the causal connection between the two phenomena, and comparatively this method is more reliable than the method of agreement. And I have already mentioned that the method of agreement is a method of discovery, but this method is the method of proof, not method of discovery. Since the causal connection is established through experiments, it is a method of proof. By experiment, we prove the relationship, that is causal relationship. The role of observation is to discover something, the role of experiment is to prove something. Now, coming to advantages. It can establish a conclusive causal relationship, that is the most important advantage. Unless you find a conclusive causal relationship, you cannot proceed towards the law of causation. So, law of causation is the goal for induction, that is the basis of formal ground of inductive belief. So, we need a conclusive causal relationship, and that conclusive causal relationship is possible under ideal arranged conditions by the help of this method of difference. Now, another advantage I have already pointed out, still that it is the reliable method. By this method we can rely on the causal relationship. The result obtained by the help of experiment is authentic and reliable. And the third advantage is that we require only two instances. In method of agreement, we require number of instances. Method of agreement, we require number of instances, but here we require only two instances. And in method of agreement, if more number of instances are there, then the result is more probable, but here we can reach at the end of the causal relationship by the help of two instances only. So, this method requires only two instances, which is the advantage of this method. Now, coming to the disadvantages. Again, this method is not helpful, not workable in case of plurality of causes. The method of agreement was not helpful in case of plurality of causes, and that was known as characteristics imperfection there, but here it is not said like that, characteristics imperfection, but it is a defect of this method, that by this method we cannot know the causal relationship in case of plurality of causes, because we rely only on the factor of single difference. So, there must be a single difference, and for this reason this method is a failure in case of plurality of causes. Now, coming to the most important defect of this method, that is, by this method every possibility of committing an inductive logical fallacy, and that inductive logical fallacy is known as post hoc ergo propter hoc. Again, post hoc ergo propter hoc, that means after this, due to this. This is such a fallacy which we commit many a times in our day to day life. When we find that someone enters to the house and the switch is off, we say that your entrance is the cause of the lighting out. So, similarly, sometimes we say when there is a comet on the sky, some important political leader dies, we say that the appearance of comet is the cause of the death of the political leader. So, in this manner, so if somebody goes to appear the examination and sees a cat on the road, then we say that his bad performance in the examination is due to seeing the cat, or somebody meets an accident by seeing a cat, we say that cat is the cause of the accident. So, all these are the fallacious arguments which are known as the fallacy of post hoc ergo propter hoc. After this, due to this, that means after this thing happened. So, we said due to this thing happened. So, there is a confusion between after and due to, and that is how this is a fallacious argument which is known as post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy, and this is possible only in case of method of difference. Now, coming to another disadvantage of this method, this method fails to distinguish between cause and condition, just like the other method, that is method of agreement, where there was such a defect that it was failing to distinguish between cause and condition. This method also fails to distinguish between cause and condition. A cause is a combination of both positive and negative conditions taken together. A condition is an indispensable part of the cause, but here it is not possible to identify the single difference between the cause and the effect. For example, coffee is tasty with sugar, and without sugar coffee is not tasty. So, adding the sugar is the cause of the good taste of the coffee, but really considering it is not the only cause, because it is a major condition of the tasty. There are so many other factors also there. So, there is every possibility of confusing between the condition and the cause in this method. While applying this method, one may confuse between the important condition with the cause. And another also important defect of this method, that is, in this method we cannot proceed from effect to cause. That was the advantage of the other method, that we were capable of proceeding from cause to effect and effect to cause by the help of method of agreement, but in case of method of difference we cannot proceed from cause to effect, effect to cause, but we can only proceed from cause to effect. Since the method of agreement depends upon the observation, in which we may proceed from cause to effect and effect to cause, but in case of method of difference we depend upon experiment. So, we cannot in the process of experiment we cannot go to the, we cannot find out the effect first then the cause, we have to proceed from cause to effect always. So, that is, this is one most important defect of this method, that we cannot proceed from effect to cause. And another important defect of this method is that this method is not applicable in case of permanent causes. There are some causes which are permanent, we cannot remove them. Suppose we cannot completely remove the light in an open space, that is the permanent source of light through sun. So, in an open space in the daytime. So, there are many, the atmosphere, the presence of the atmosphere, it is, its presence is permanent. We have to take attempt to go to that situation. So, in cases of permanent causes which cannot be removed, the temperature is a permanent cause in many cases. So, atmospheric pressure, temperature, many factors are there which are permanent, we cannot easily take them away, and in such cases method of agreement is not applicable. So, permanent, in case of permanent causes the method of agreement is not, method of difference is not applicable. So, these are the defects of the method of difference, among which the most important difference which you have to remember, that is post hoc ergo propter hoc. So, what we have read under or discussed under this method of difference, we have first of all read the canon, and that canon of Mill was like this, that if an instance in which the phenomenon under investigation occurs and an instance in which it does not occur have every circumstance in common save one, that one occurring only in the former, the circumstance in which alone the two instances differ is the effect or cause or an indispensable part of the cause of the phenomenon. And we have also heard that this method of difference follows the second principle of elimination, where the second principle of elimination says, when an antecedent can be left out without consequent disappearing, cannot be left out without consequent disappearing, such antecedent must be the cause or part of the cause. And we have also had some concrete example cases where the presence of light and the visibility of things, the presence of the teacher, the disciplined classroom or peaceful atmosphere of the classroom, all these are the examples of concrete examples of method of difference. And coming to characteristics, it is the single method of method of single difference, and it is method per excellence, and it is also a method of experiment. And coming to the advantages, it is a method of proof, not discovery, and it is such a method where the conclusive or final causal relationship is possible. We can rely on this method for definite causal relationship, and the significant advantage is that here only two instances are sufficient to reach out the causal relationship. Now, the three disadvantages are: one is it is not helpful in case of plurality of causes, and here there is every possibility of confusing between cause and condition, and the most important defect is committing the fallacy of post hoc ergo propter hoc, that is after this, due to this. And this is how this method of difference is treated as the best possible method according to J. S. Mill. In the next class, we shall discuss three other methods. Those three methods are method of joint method of agreement and difference, method of concomitant variation, and the method of residues. Thank you all.